Testing one, two.
Hello there. What's going on here? What's with this microphone? Yeah, maybe.
Elos. Is that?
What's with our mics?
This one is on.
So yours is okay.
Yours works. Oh. Let's see who's the favorite.
Good evening, everyone. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrieleño Tongva and Gabrieleño Kizh peoples. Kathy Blavis, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Mayor and Council, the United States flag is on this side of the dais. Apologies.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Blavis. Calling this meeting to order, which I should have done before the Pledge of Allegiance, Monday, May 2nd, 2022, and it is 6:06 p.m. And can we have a roll call, please?
Thank you. Councilmember D'Amico.
Yes.
Councilmember Erickson.
Yes?
Councilmember Horvath.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Shine. Mayor Meister.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Can we get a report of closed session agenda? Who would like to do that?
We'll have to switch to Zoom so that City Attorney Langer can provide the report.
Okay. We have Lauren Langer remote. She is, there she is. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. The City Council convened a closed session at 5:30 this evening. There were no members of the public who came in to speak for public comment. The Council discussed the one item of business listed on the posted agenda and took no reportable action. The closed session concluded at 5:55 this evening. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney Langer. Now we have the approval of the agenda. Does staff have any changes this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I would like to note that was given to you at the dais this evening is that for item 4A, the recommendations are to receive the presentation and discuss and approve recommendations to increase access to social services as listed in the final report. The agenda and the staff report in your packet said just receive and file. So I wanted to make that clear to the public that the recommendation has changed.
Thank you very much. Madam City Clerk. Yes, Councilmember Erickson. Would you like to propose some changes?
Thank you so much, Mayor. I was wondering if we could move item 6A, the resolution authorizing the city manager to adopt a recovered organic waste product procurement policy. Great. I'm going to try another, if I may.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Thank you so much.
You're on a roll.
I'm going to try 5B, a resolution to initiate local and cultural resources designation proceedings for Great Hall, Long Hall, and Fiesta Hall.
Yes. How are we on there? Shaking heads?
Yes.
Yes. And
I'll try one more, if I may. And then 4A, the needs assessment focusing on the social services needs of the community members of color.
okay with that? I see shaking
I have
heads.
some comments, but we can.
So far,
do
we
that.
have 6A, 5B, 4A, or 4A, 5B, 6A.
I would
Yes?
like to see if my colleagues would be willing to move item 5A, which is to initiate a local cultural resource designation for 7900-06 Santa Monica Boulevard.
Yes, I see shaking heads. Okay, very
And
good.
item 5C, which is an item regarding sporting events and sports tourism.
I'm good with that. Everybody good with that?
And for and item 6B, which is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of West Hollywood regarding the implementation of the citywide minimum wage.
I would just like to ask,
I
Madam
think there
City,
might be some.
I'd like to leave it on for discussion if that's okay.
I was going to ask if we had public speakers as well. But, okay, so we are not going to move 6B. Okay. Anything else? Anything we
There
want to
isn't
pull
anything
from
else.
consent? Anything we want to table? Okay, so it looks like we are putting 4A, 5A, 5B, 5C, and 6A on consent. Very good. So can we get a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, we have a Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Erickson. Can we get a roll call, please?
I think we're going to press our buttons.
Is it not coming up on the screen?
No.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember D'Amico.
Yes.
Councilmember Erickson.
Yes.
Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Shine. Mayor Meister.
Yes.
Tonight's agenda is approved.
Great. Okay. Now we are going to move on to adjournment motions. Do we have any adjournment motions, Councilmember Horvath?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to adjourn in memory of Terrence Lee Jones, who was a music director, pianist, conductor, composer, vocal arranger, and vocal coach, born on June 23rd, 1961 in Knoxville, Tennessee. He was a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee, but a longtime resident of West Hollywood. Terrence Lee Jones was a man for all ages. In a category of his own, he was sophisticated, suave, refined, a child prodigy that used his God-given talents to touch the world through music. He has left a legacy of students, co-workers, and fans that received his fiery passion of perfection. His kind heart compelled him to be a helper, devoted son, nephew, cousin, friend, and mentor. Terrence honored his elders with animated visits and phone calls, reveling in stories and memories. He was special and made life special. Our condolences go out to Terrence Lee Jones's friends and family. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have two. I'd like to adjourn in memory of Robbie Rutstein. Robbie passed away due to complications related to Alzheimer's disease. She grew up in Chicago but considered West Hollywood her home. Robbie was very passionate about helping in her community. She served as a board member of Peace Over Violence and Fix Nation, two charities that were near and dear to her heart. She will be missed by many in the West Hollywood community. I also would like to adjourn in memory of Paul Rakos. Paul Rakos was the father of Andrew Rakos. He survived the concentration camp at Auschwitz to create an amazing life for himself and his family. He fittingly passed away on National Holocaust Memorial Day. Our sincere condolences to Andrew and his family. Now, if there are no more adjournment motions, we will move on to presentations. And I believe that Councilmember Erickson, you have a presentation?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much, Mayor. I am pulling it up. Is the proclamation over there? Is it one of them? There's two. They're hidden. Thank you. And I believe the person accepting the proclamation is Erin, and she is on Zoom, if I'm not mistaken. Mental Health Awareness Month is in May, and last council meeting, we agreed to co-sponsor various events around mental health, because as we celebrate mental health awareness, this is an opportunity for millions of Americans that face the reality of living with a mental illness as we continue to work to fight stigma, provide support, educate the public, and advocate for policies that support people living with mental illness and their families. NAMI West Side, which Erin is here from, is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for millions of Americans affected by mental illness. NAMI was founded in 1979 and now has more than 210,000 members and 1,200 affiliate groups across the United States. The amplified message of this year's theme, Together for Mental Health, highlights that this is a time to bring our voices together to advocate for mental health awareness and access to care. And our West Side chapter of Los Angeles, one of a number of affiliates here in California and across the country, offers peer support groups for those living with mental health conditions, family support groups for family members and loved ones who are impacted by mental illness. And throughout the month of May, they are hosting a number of events. They're all on my calendar, so thank you, Erin, for putting those on, and I encourage everyone here in the public to sign up for them. They're free, they're amazing. I've already attended several. Specifically, a speaker series happening on May 4th, a town hall co-sponsored by us, the City of West Hollywood, on May 11th, and self-care workshops and service awards in Santa Monica, May 21st. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the members of the City Council of the City of West Hollywood do hereby proclaim May as Mental Health Awareness Month, and in the City of West Hollywood express our support and appreciation for the work of NAMI Westside Los Angeles and the work that they are doing to support those impacted by mental illness, and urges members of the community to participate in those events throughout the month. And we'll make sure you get this proclamation, Erin, and I'll turn it over to you.
Councilmember Erickson and all the council members, the City of West Hollywood, thank you so much. As the representative of NAMI Westside LA and our board, our community, I graciously accept this proclamation, and we are extremely grateful for the support and advocacy that you do on the City Council level and giving us this proclamation today. Our partnership is invaluable, and we hope and we welcome all of the community members to come to our family-to-family support groups, our peer-to-peer support groups. All of our programs and services are free, so removing that barrier to care so everyone can have free mental health resources. We greatly appreciate this proclamation. We have a wonderful event with the City of West Hollywood on May 11th. It's a town hall event. We hope that you join us. As John stated before, we had an event earlier, and it was a listening session with the City of West Hollywood. And I just want to state how grateful we are for the diverse and safe environment that you are creating on the advocacy level for people to be heard. So that listening session was open up for everyone to express themselves, what their needs are, what they foresee, the needs for their community and themselves, specifically related to mental health. We all know that we have mental health. It hasn't been a priority, I think, in the past, but since the pandemic, I think people have really shifted that perspective. The shame and stigma surrounding mental health is being removed, and we are really focusing on it. And we want you to know that NAMI Westside LA is here for you to provide those resources for you. So again, thank you so much on behalf of NAMI Westside LA. We graciously accept this proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next presentation is for Senior Month, and it will be received by Senior Advisory Board Chair Joy Newell. The month of May is National Older Americans Month and serves as a time to honor older Americans in communities throughout the country. West Hollywood proudly supports our senior community and honors them during National Older Americans Month with special programming for our own Senior Month. The city is very fortunate to have a vital and active Senior Advisory Board, which will televise their monthly Senior Advisory Board meeting on Wednesday, May 25th at 2 p.m. Through the West Hollywood Aging in Place, Aging in Community initiative, the city will focus a month-long communication strategy on educating and informing the broader community about local services, resources, and programs that make West Hollywood an age-friendly city. The city greatly appreciates the role of our Senior Advisory Board members as community leaders, volunteers, educators, and activists. We proudly proclaim the month of May 2022 as the 36th Annual Senior Month in West Hollywood. Joy?
Mayor Meister, council members, thank you very much for recognizing us. We who have reached the seniority, and we hope that is a status that, given good health, all of you will also reach. We feel very fortunate to live in the city of Los Angeles. in the city of West Hollywood, within the city of Los Angeles. West Hollywood acknowledges its older people in terms of programs for food, programs for transportation. We are grateful. We thank you for the acknowledgement. And as I say, we hope that all of you reach the status of being older people in the community of West Hollywood. Thank you, Mayor Meister.
Thank you, Joy. We hope so, too. Now we will move on to public comment. The City Council values your comments. However, pursuant to the Brown Act, Council cannot act on items not listed on the posted agenda. The public comment period is limited to 20 minutes, with 2 minutes allotted for each speaker. This public comment period is to address the City Council on consent calendar items, other agenda items if the members of the public cannot be present at the time the item is being considered, or items of general interest within the jurisdiction of the City Council. Another period is also reserved for general comment later in the meeting for those that could not be heard at this time. Public hearing testimony will only be taken at the time of the hearing. We will start with Lina De Rio.
Mayor, we do have some individuals who require translation, so I will give them 2.5 minutes or any additional time to ensure we get the translation.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes.
We're going to be translating for them.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Lina del Río y yo llevo viviendo en la ciudad de West Hollywood 42 años.
Hi, my name is Lina del Rio, and I've been living in West Hollywood for 42 years.
En estos 42 años, yo nunca he visto ninguna organización en esta ciudad que ayude a los transgéneros.
In my 42 years, there's never been an agency that supports transgender people.
Ahora sí hay una organización Trans Latina Coalition que está ayudando a todas las transexuales en ambos géneros.
So there's one agency that I've been getting a lot of support from, and it's Trans Latino Coalition, who has been helping the trans and gender non-binary community.
Yo creo que las transgéneros necesitan en la ciudad la misma ayuda que necesitan otros miembros de esta ciudad, como las personas mayores, como las personas de otras nacionalidades, y ellas son las únicas que se han ocupado en ayudar en lo que es comida, en lo que es la salud, inmigración, y les pido a nombre de todas mis amigas y todas las personas que vivimos en West Hollywood, ya mayores, que por favor continúen y sigan ayudando a esta agencia que es la única que se ha preocupado por nosotros.
Trans Latina Coalition has been an agency that has been helping us senior transgender individuals in the city of West Hollywood with food, transportation, and I would like for you guys to keep supporting this agency.
Muchas gracias, es todo lo que le tengo que decir en el día de hoy.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for having us here today.
Gracias. Thank you. Ted Liso.
Good evening, council members. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm here because I commend and applaud you for your attempt to have a senior month. I'm definitely in favor of something like that. Do I take my mask off? No. Okay. So anyway, I'm here to attempt to also let you know that within the senior month that there are issues that maybe I think that we should be aware of. Currently, our national obesity rate is at 42%. That's everyone. LA County is at 40%. That's seniors alone. And for seniors that are here or nationally, it's 70%. The reason why I'm saying this is because I think as we have Senior Month, we have to look into more activities for our seniors. And pickleball and sports will be alternatives or interventions for that to happen. That is my information to give to you, so as we go through the Senior Month, that we can focus more on activities and exercise to bring down comorbidities associated with obesity. Lastly, I would like to ask you, is it possible that we can have a walk around where we close down the city maybe once a month and we walk around and we try to set the example to bring down our obesity rates? We can do that in different sections of the city. We can challenge other cities, and we can see if we can actually bring down our own obesity rates here. I think it's personally a big problem. I just personally lost 72 pounds and know what that's like, and came out of the threat of heart disease. So I know that this needs to be done at some point. I also know that West Hollywood is body conscious, and we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Suana Mendez.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Suani Méndez, yo soy compañera de Lisa Ceballo, que soy la principal con mi amiga de ir a ver estos casos de las chicas trans en la ciudad de West Hollywood. Y para mí creo que sería bastante importante que sigan apoyando a la organización, porque nosotros somos la principal fuente para cambiar las vidas de estas personas.
Hi, my name is Suani Mendez, and I'm working in West Hollywood with the Trans Latina Coalition and Lisa Ceballo doing outreach. And I feel that that you guys have supported us a lot, and if you continue to support us, we will keep on doing the work that we're doing.
Como organización nos encargamos de cambiar la vida de estas personas, y cada vez que nosotros vamos a hacer outreach, vemos a las diferentes personas trans que nosotros nos encontramos y vemos el crecimiento de ellas, ya que nosotros reclutamos a estas personas y las ayudamos ya con tarjeta del VAS, con cheques de renta.
Coming out here and to West Hollywood, we have recruited, by doing outreach, clients that we've been supporting with rental assistance, food, and transportation. And it is good to have this program because we keep seeing the difference that we're making in the community.
Y para nosotras es un orgullo tratar de cambiar la vida de estas personas.
And for us, we're very proud that we are changing the lives of our clients.
Creo que somos parte de la comunidad como cualquier persona, y sería bueno que, así como están apoyando la organización, se siga apoyando más.
I believe that you've been supporting us, and if the support keeps on happening, we'll continue to change people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. L.A. Rome.
Ready. Hi, so I'm El Rome, and I am a client of the Trans Latina Coalition. I was working in West Hollywood when I met my caseworker, and then once I became unemployed, they helped link me through to employment and a housing opportunity as well, and I have personally seen the impact of the TRUE program at West Hollywood. And I also ask you that you please continue to support the program because it really is changing lives, and the trans community is very much present in the city of West Hollywood, and any support is appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you. Yasser Gomez.
Hola, mi nombre es Yaiser Gómez y le quiero dar gracias a la ciudad de West Hollywood por darnos soporte a las chicas de Translatina Coalition y ayudarnos en asistencia de alimentación, en tarjetas para el bus, en todo lo que ayudan a las chicas, sobre todo las chicas que están en drogas, que las ayudan y es todo.
Hi, my name is Giselle Gomez. I just want to say thank you so much to the City of West Hollywood for giving us the support that we need, like transportation, food, assistance, and to continue making the difference in our community, especially the trans women that are suffering from substance abuse and making a big difference in their life.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lisa Ceballos.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be here standing up in front of all of you beautiful people and to tell you that the change that I have seen in the people that I have served has been really impact to the very first time of seeing the clients walking into that door to the moment that they get a job, they get independent, where they move away from the shelters that I refer them to, for them to come back with a smile and not just no more for services, but to be part of the community for our celebrations, our gatherings. It's heart-touching. And I honestly would like to continue to do this work because it makes the difference. And one of the things that I always get from my clients is like, we're so happy and content that the City of West Hollywood is focusing on wanting to invest in the lives of trans women to make their lives better. So if you were to allow me the opportunity to continue serving my community, it will be an honor, and I will not let you guys down as I have been to this day, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Kathy Blavis.
Well, first of all, good evening, Mayor Meister, council members, and it's really nice to be back in council chambers. You all look much better in person than you do on television. I want to thank Mayor Meister for bringing item 5B forward, and also the subcommittee, acknowledging you, Mayor Pro Tem Seppi Shine. And council members, thank you for putting this on consent. It's many years that I've been looking forward to standing up here and seeing this come to fruition, so I'm very excited about it, and I thank you all very much. Ditto from Stephanie Harker, who's just a little under the weather tonight, otherwise she would be here cheering. I also want to thank Councilmember Erickson for bringing forward item 5A. The East Side is really an historic portion of our city. And it'll be nice someday to say, I'll meet you under the clock, so, and not mean Bloomingdale's in New York. So in any event, I just want to thank you all for that. I also just want to say that there really aren't many opportunities to thank, to say thank you to our appointed city officials. So I'd like to use this platform to thank Lynn Hoopengartner for her service on the Planning Commission. In my opinion, her decisions have always been unbiased, thoughtful, and well-researched. She'll be sorely missed, and I just want to say thank you for your dedication, Lynn. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Kathy. Susan Isaacs.
Good evening. Susan Isaacs, I'm a 25-year resident. I have to leave this on, right?
You don't have to if you don't want to.
I don't? 25-year resident of West Hollywood. And on item 5B, I would like to speak specifically to the courtyard of the Great Hall, Long Hall. It's what I know best. I had 5 years' experience enjoying the beauty and utility of this courtyard. As a professional dog trainer and behavior consultant, I was under contract with the city for 5 years to conduct basic obedience classes, one for puppies and one for older dogs in that very courtyard. Handler dog teams enjoyed the space for several reasons. It was a lovely, convenient venue in which to take classes. There was plenty of space, so teams were never on top of one another, and classes were never canceled due to bad weather. In case of rain, the overhang around the perimeter served to protect everyone from the elements. My contract was canceled when the city announced that Plummer Park was to undergo renovations. To date, these renovations have not taken place. The space sits idly, waiting to be enjoyed by the public. My affection goes beyond the practical. Great Hall Long Hall has historic significance as a project of the Works Progress Administration in 1937 to create jobs as well as much-needed recreational facility during the Great Depression. That the WPA took the time to oversee the design and execution of such a beautifully proportioned structure is truly a gift that contributes to Plummer Park's distinctive character. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I seem to remember Spike Meister failed your class. Steve Martin.
Good evening, council members. Steve Martin, West Hollywood, and I too want to join in the chorus of thanking you on 5B. Great Hall, Long Hall has a lot of historical and architectural significance. I don't know if you saw the news clipping that Stephanie Harker had sent out, because back when they dedicated it in 1938, they said it was a gay celebration, which I guess is pioneering. But it isn't, it represents a variation on the California mission style, and I know some of you will be concerned about that was a genocidal period of our history, but we really shouldn't criminalize architecture. This has been a really significant architectural style that still impacts all of California in a very unique way, and particularly in West Hollywood, as we've seen in West Hollywood West, the Tri-West area, and places like that. So thank you for that. But also, it's part of the Great Hall, Long Hall is something of a grounding, because we don't have many monuments left that we haven't demolished or that haven't changed significantly. And people can go to the park and see something that was there when they were kids. And I think that is important, and that's what's important about Plummer Park. I do want to thank Lynn Hoopengardner for her service. I think what has occurred there was very unfortunate, and I think it's very disturbing that this community keeps banting about accusations of sexism, transphobia, racism. I mean, Lindsay, you did that defending your public safety commissioner, and I did not appreciate it, because I was one of the people speaking out. But this sort of gamesmanship is just so destructive and so disappointing, and I just think we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Victor Omolchenko.
Modern technology. I'm sorry, Council. Victor Omolchenko. Wow, May, a month of awareness, starting with what we discussed earlier, the Mental Health Awareness Month. But did you also know that May is Historic Preservation Month nationwide? And, you know, in the past, before the pandemic, we would do events and tours of historic homes and that's fine, and maybe that'll come again. But I can't tell you how excited the West Hollywood Preservation Alliance is in that you, as our city council, has initiated the 2 items to look into designating. First, are already on the National Register of Historic Places, Great Hall, Long Hall. Hopefully, it will get local cultural resource designation. And then across the way, we have Fiesta Hall, which was built later in 1949, still in the Spanish colonial style, and the place where cityhood was discussed in the 80s before we became a city. So Then, switching to the corner of Fairfax and Santa Monica, we have The Clock. The Clock was a 1945 Warner Brothers production with Judy Garland and Robert Walker that I remember. But as Kathy Blavis said, maybe we'll be able to celebrate under that clock as we look at getting that 7900 to 7906 Santa Monica Boulevard designated. And so thank you very much, Mayor Meister. Thank you, Councilmember John Erickson, for initiating these items. And I would like to introduce, I think our clerk has Mr. Gunter Koinecke on the roster to speak after me. He is the president of the West Knoll Residential Council, but at the same time, he has been a leader. He has met with Councilmember Horvath. He has met with previous Councilmember John Heilman and with John Erickson to discuss getting this clock up and preserved and allowing us to see the passage of time in real life. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Gunter?
Gunter.
Good afternoon. My name is Günther Koinecke. I'm a retired engineer, and I have lived in the city of West Hollywood for about 16 years by now. About the 13th of February 2015, I initiated a project called the Clock Project on Fairfax and Santa Monica Boulevard, which is a wonderful old historic clock which hasn't been running in the last 20 years, I guess. So I took it upon myself to initiate something to make this work again. I talked to the jeweler, Mr. Arthur, and he was supportive, but he could not convince the owners, like myself, to finance the clock repair. But anyways, it has been by now a more than 7-year effort on my part to get this clock repaired and get the financing settled. I want to thank you, especially Mr. Erickson, for taking up this project and helping it and supporting it. Thank you very much, Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cynthia Blatt?
Hi, it's been a while. How are you? Cynthia Blatt, West Hollywood. You know, I had written out this whole little 2-minute blurb about moving Great Hall, Long Hall, and Fiesta Hall to consent, but I didn't get here early enough to find out that it had already been done. So, you know, I might as well throw away my whole little thing, but I will say that I talked about the fact that it's been more than a decade that this fight has been going on to preserve and save these iconic structures. And I'm really, first of all, I'm really proud of Mayor Meister for putting this on the agenda. As usual, her sensitivity to the issues that really concern the city is there, and her ability and willingness to put forth the items that matter to so many of us. So I thank you for that consistent, intelligent governing. I was also going to talk about the vitality of the park and its importance to all of us, no matter where we live in West Hollywood, from Doheny to La Brea, from Sunset to Beverly. See, I had a whole thing going on. And, you know, it's an area of the city that has, you know, that has been recognized by the state and by the nation. And so it's about time we took pride in our own iconic structures. So I'm very pleased and happy to hear that it has gone to consent. And because it's past time to secure these vital West Hollywood landmarks, and we deserve it and they deserve it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Cynthia. Madam City Clerk, do we have anyone else for consent items before we move to general public comment?
We have 2 speakers on Zoom who wish to provide 03 for consent. So we'll call those, and then if you still wish to proceed, we'll come back to in person.
Mayor, first speaker this evening on Zoom is Roy Oldenkamp. Roy, you will have 2 minutes. Please press *6 to unmute yourself. Roy, if you can hear me, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, we'll go. Next speaker is Michael Vojkolevich. Michael, you'll have 2 minutes. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
May I start?
Go ahead, Michael.
Good evening, Michael Vojkolevich speaking on consent 2L, which, like the agenda items just moved onto consent, is deemed routine in order to evade proper public vetting. Nevertheless, if Lindsay Horvath's item was granted vetting, then understanding for its redundant nature would become exposed, as the more encompassing CERT training is what every single resident and building manager should go through as part of broader education. After all, CERT already promotes, coordinates, and organizes fire safety training, as fires are an inherent possibility that come with earthquake danger. If there is any training beyond CERT needed, it is for those like Councilperson Horvath, city staff, all public safety commissioners, code compliance along with building and safety, and even LA County Fire itself, to go through instructional teaching which underscores the importance of abiding by certain life safety requirements set by the state and not defraud the public by lying about actual facts regarding certain non-code compliant projects allowed built by the city. The so-called residential building I inhabit, which opened only 11 years ago, not only cut corners on accessibility requirements related to emergency egress, but was later discovered to have wrong fire sensors in many areas, causing the alarms to trigger sporadically and without any warning both day and night, triggering existing PTSD within some and causing new lifelong PTSD within others. If the city really wants to promote residential fire safety, make those inclusive of many Russians to abide by published boilerplate house rules so as not to keep their entry doors in a propped, open position, as this will not only help mitigate certain stenches emanating from their food, constrain the bellowing of pro-Putin and anti-Ukrainian sentiment, but accomplish one of the most important fire safety measures attainable, which is ensuring containment of the fire within the unit itself. It's really a shame that those who have put in a request for consent calendar find them at the end of those who have put speaker time requests on agenda items that after 6:30 p.m. in the evening are moved to consent.
Thank you, Michael. Your time is up. Our next speaker is Marquita Thomas. Marquita, you will have 2 minutes. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Meister and council members. My name is Marquita Thomas. I'm a 26-year resident of West Hollywood. I'm pleased to currently serve on the West Hollywood Planning Commission. And professionally, I'm the executive director of the Los Angeles LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. I'm pleased to see that item 4A was moved to consent, and I'm pleased to see the City of West Hollywood engaging Maroon Society consultants to study how social programs offered by the city are being utilized by people of color in the City of West Hollywood. All too often, well-intentioned programs don't accomplish their goals because there's no effort to step back and ask, how are we doing and how could we do better, particularly as it relates to communities of color. So hats off to you for not making that mistake. The report identifies many steps the city can take to improve the provision of services to people of color. I urge you to act on those recommendations immediately. There's another very important way the City of West Hollywood can better help people of color and other communities that have suffered from discrimination. That's inclusionary procurement. That directs economic development towards people of color, the LGBTQ community, and women entrepreneurs through supplier diversity. The City of West Hollywood spends millions of dollars each year through contracts with suppliers. Both the City of Los Angeles and the County of Los Angeles have policies in place to ensure that diverse suppliers, minority-owned businesses, LGBTQ-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses have access to contracting for those services. I look forward to seeing inclusionary procurement in the City of West Hollywood as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Roy on the line still?
Can you folks hear me?
Go ahead, Roy. You'll have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, great, thank you. I was going to just go ahead and pass and only speak on 3A. So I will just waive this and talk on 3A. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Mayor, we have two more
Goodbye.
speakers for public or consent calendar, if that's okay.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Zakiya Wright, followed by Adam Darvish. Zakiya, press *6. You'll have 2 minutes.
Good evening, City Council. This is Zakiya Wright. I'm calling to speak on a number of items, consent calendar, so I'm going to move fairly quickly, try to get them all in. Regarding item 2G, I really appreciated all the work that David and his team put into creating the RFP process. What I would have liked to see more in that process is what the outreach plan is. During the LGAB meeting when we went over the social services and the special meeting held by the Commission for Social Services, there was a lot of reflection on the unawareness of a lot of the board members, commissioners, and the community about what services the city actually offers. And so I imagine that same sentiment probably transfers over to the types, the RFPs and things like that. And so I would like to see how the city is, contacting orgs or who they're sending it out to so they're aware of the RFP. And I think also there was one sort of provision that limited the types of orgs that can participate in it. It was really limited to newer organizations, which while I understand it because of the risks that may be associated with newer orgs, I think it also limits the new, fresh, and innovative ideas that can be brought to the table. And so I think a way to get around that was maybe requiring some of the older established groups that typically, win an RFP with the city to partner with the new group. So that way we can know that we have the confidence in an org that typically contracts with the city with a group that may bring in some ideas and new perspectives. Regarding item 2J specifically, which is the Rainbow Key Etheridge Award, Community Activist Award, specifically subsection 4, where the Lesbian Gay Advisory Board recommended a new Community Activist Award, which will someday hopefully be called the Audrey Lorde Award. I just wanted to thank past board member Alana Roche and past board member Lauren Costain, who started this endeavor and trusted me to sort of get it pushed through. And so I appreciate this being on consent so we can get that going. Regarding item 2M, I think it's amazing that we...
Zakiya, I'm sorry, your time is up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mayor, our next speaker is Adam Darvish. Adam, please press *6 to unmute yourself. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor Meister, Mayor Pro Tem Shine, and Council. I'm Adam Darvish, a resident. Wanted to, I'll get off my soapbox because on item 2F and item 2H, the senior term was used, but thank you so much, Mayor Meister, for starting and calling it what I was hoping for and calling it older Americans. So again, I'll move on from those two items, but I have made comments on 2F and wanted to thank our Social Services Department, David and Leslie and the team for the great work that they do and item 2H that is related to on-call transportation and redesign. I wanted to thank Council Member Horvath for item 2M, the Israel's 74th Independence Day, and the movement to decorate a city hall with lightings that are blue and white. Just as a person that had many Jewish Iranian friends before I left my country and a family that raised me to be free and to make a choice not to follow any religion, and seeing what they have accomplished, my Jewish American friends and Jewish Iranian friends and other Jewish friends, this is important for us to celebrate their lifetime and from sort of different eras in their life, from their ancestors and to today what they've accomplished. So thank you so much, Council Member Horvath, and also item 2N. I want to thank Mayor Meister and Council Member D'Amico for focusing on our best friends and recognizing the National Dog World Dog Day, and hoping that we'll have more on the agenda for our best friends to improve their quality of life by more green space, mini parks, and other things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Are there any other speakers for consent?
No, Mayor.
Okay, so why don't we now go to general public comment. Nika Suncheong.
Hi, my name is Nika Soon-Cheong. I'd like to talk about public safety. So let's start with a show of hands. Raise your hand if your salary has gone up by 100% in the past 10 years. Raise your hand if your boss bought a backyard helipad with your organization's money, or if private insurance companies are saying that you will be ineligible for coverage as early as next July. So now imagine if one organization had its hands raised, asked for a quarter of the city's budget, and then said actually it would ask for 20% more every 2 years. Should cities accept this financial risk? Cost per deputy has gone from $168,000 to $358,000, and so we're paying more for less. Contract cities are paying more for less sheriff's services. And this year has been challenging, to say the least. So when I read headlines that are sourced from the department or crime presentations from the sheriff, I also share the concerns of residents around public safety. Sheriff reports that criminals are stealing phones from nightclubs, and so they need more than 60 officers. And unless they are at the brightly colored nightclubs with not a lot of noise, I'm not sure how we're going to go beyond the 2 cases solved out of 249. So reducing the contract also doesn't imply that there will be fewer officers in WeHo. To quote the LA County CEO, the Sheriff's Department hired or promoted over 1,900 new employees under the hiring freeze. It has not been prevented from hiring more deputies to serve contract cities and is yet to produce a concrete, data-driven spending plan for public safety. So we're asking the department to audit itself, report its own efficacy, and drive the narrative. And if it can't do this accurately for LA County, what makes us think it can do so for WeHo? Let's get to a better situation together. What if the contract was $17.2, not $20.4 million? We could quadruple block-by-block's presence and have a security ambassador in every single corner of the city. We could also, for one officer, buy a new iPhone 13 for everyone whose phone was pickpocketed last year and have 109 phones to store in City Hall. Thank you so much.
Ambrose Brooks. Ambrose Brooks.
Hello. Hi, it's good to be here again. My name is Ambrose Brooks. I am the Coalition Coordinator for the Justice LA Coalition, and I'm once again speaking in support of the City of West Hollywood reallocating $3.2 million out of its contract with the Sheriff's Department, and I really encourage the city to move this money into the community and social services funds. We've been told that the city can find this money elsewhere, and to that I say do both. Cut the contract with the Sheriff's Department and invest more than $3.2 million in social services. What we saw at last month's city council meeting was a department that is busy covering up financial irresponsibility by presenting this body with unintelligible crime reports and blurry accounting spreadsheets. You know which one I'm talking about. Based on these very reports, it is clear the Sheriff's Department is not doing its job. There is a reason crime reduction is not a performance indicator of law enforcement contracts. There is a reason why the Sheriff's Department does not make their timesheets publicly available. The Sheriff's Department is defrauding the city of West Hollywood. Multiple Sheriff's Department employees lied to the city council meeting last month regarding the rising crime statistics and the city's responsibility for Sheriff's Department liability costs per deputy. The Sheriff's Department is unable to properly account for their deputies' use of time while on the clock. Imagine this happening in any other county department, in any other job. Why continue to pour money into a negligent, ineffective department? It's been shown that investing directly in social services, outreach to our unhoused population that's not led by the Sheriff's Department will actually make substantive change in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Gill.
Hi, good evening, Council. It's good to see you back in here. Welcome back, sorry. So yeah, I am Matt Gill. I'm the manager of West Hollywood Library, and I wanted to announce that we are very happy to welcome back the City of West Hollywood Homeless Initiative and the city's homeless service providers to our library as of today. From October 2016 through the COVID shutdown in March 2020, we hosted city contracted homeless service providers in the West Hollywood room 5 days a week. And while we did reopen the library last year in April of 2021, it's only been in the last 2 months that we've been able to relax capacity limits, and we are now able to resume our drop-in homeless services. Though the service providers will again be using the West Hollywood room on the second floor of the library, and it'll be a place to meet new clients and to offer services to people already in the library. The service providers and the people in need of their services can meet in a confidential and private area. The library is a neutral place with no stigma attached. I always like to say the library is a place of dignity. And so while the visibly homeless do make up a not insignificant portion of anyone who's in the library at any given time, there's another portion that we are also very aware of, even as they may not be as visible. And I'm talking about those who are just on the verge of homelessness, those one missed paycheck or one medical emergency away from being homeless. And the presence of the service providers in the library can act as a measure to prevent that, connecting our people to the services they need to avoid the trap of homelessness to begin with. The library has always been a place to connect people with information in their community, and as the homeless crisis has grown, it has impacted all aspects of public service, including and especially public libraries. And this service provided by the City of West Hollywood, and especially the Homeless Initiative, allows us to fulfill our goal of meeting the information needs of all whom we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Alana Roche.
Good evening, Mayor Meister. Good evening, council members. Miss you. It's starting already. Okay. I came here tonight for your support to increase the BBB budget. Since the kiosk has been placed on the east side of West Hollywood near Liberty and Santa Monica Boulevard, there has been a noticeable improvement in quality of life and livability standards in that area. In my recent visit to the kiosk with Commissioner Hallman, I had a chance to speak with one of the ambassadors, and he informed me that the employees of the various retail stores in that area have felt so much safer since its implementation. Several of these employees use public transportation to get to and from work and appreciate the kiosk's location position near the bus stop shelters. So much of public safety is associated with physical and emotional safety. Having the physical presence of BBB provides a sense of safety and the so-called boots on the ground that West Hollywood constituents are constantly requesting. The city could potentially add another 11 BBB ambassadors for the cost of one LASD deputy. We could have BBB walking every street if need be. As Mayor Lauren Meister stated on the ABC, I saw that, it was fantastic, aired April 21st, quote, just having them out there, the residents know that they're there and people who might be looking for an opportunity may be deterred by seeing them. ABC also shared the business owner, Nat Palamas, excuse me if I mispronounced your last name, moved her store to West Hollywood last year and says that while other cities provide similar security, the commitment by West Hollywood to this program is a difference maker. She said that, quote, they have several people covering West Hollywood, so you always feel that there's someone there that will have eyes on you in case something unfortunate happens. Investing in BBB is investing in crime prevention. In addition, I would like to remind those attending tonight's meeting who may be questioning the validity of Commissioner Soon-Shiong's calculations that she has presented today. I can't believe it. Have a good night.
Thank you. Dara Levy.
Hello. I've never done this before, so please forgive me if I do something wrong. I do want to thank Lindsay Horvath and all of you for this 2M Israel Independence Day. I think it's really important to show solidarity with all the Jewish people and everyone who supports Israel, as they are one of the only democracies in the Middle East, and they are very big on LGBTQ, as you know, so they really deserve a place in West Hollywood and a celebration, so I appreciate that. My other issues are, and I don't know how this goes, but parking enforcement. I've spoken to wonderful people at the department on this, but we are facing on Keith and Doheny a serious situation. People just park wherever they want on the red lines. I never see enforcement. We're talking never. I've seen 2 accidents in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's really dangerous. You can't see coming out onto Doheny because everyone's parking in the wrong place. So I would really appreciate some help on that. And in terms of homelessness and public safety, I'm starting to feel more unsafe by the day. As a woman walking along, gym, this, that, I've only been here 5, 6 years. It's really deteriorated. And I know you guys are trying to do the best you can, and I really appreciate the Sheriff's Department. I'm an advocate of putting more police officers on the street and footmen on the street to make us feel safe, but I don't feel safe. I had a call this morning because there were 2 people on Keith I've never seen before acting really strangely. It's just out of control, and I really appreciate that you're trying to help with the mental issues, et cetera. I've spoken to people at your department, but we need more help. Thank you.
Thank you, Dara. We have some citizen position slips.
Yes, Mayor, we do. Gina Hernandez supports the recommendation for item 2G. Amanda Alba also supports the recommendation for item 2G. Kathy Blavis supports item 5A. Kimberly Copeland supports item 5A. And Kimberly Copeland supports item 5B. We also have 2 speakers in Zoom for general public comment.
Oh, thank you.
It's now 4. Our first speaker via Zoom for public comment is Hayden Alexander, followed by Yola Jore. Hayden, you'll have 2 minutes. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hey, Council. My name is Hayden Alexander, and I'm calling on behalf of my abuela, my grandmother. I'm half Hispanic, and with the recent news about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, my grandmother was actually the one that cleaned up the poop in Johnny Depp's bed, but my grandmother was under the impression that it was dog feces and not human feces. And so I would like it if the council could do something, because the apartment was located in West Hollywood. And so now we're trying to file a civil suit, but we know that in West Hollywood, there was Ed Buck who murdered all those guys with methamphetamine. We know that, West Hollywood is a very seedy place. So I really don't want my abuela to actually have to, suffer and actually clean up human feces out of Johnny Depp's bed. I mean, that's not okay. Amber Heard said this was from their dog. Come to find out in court that it's not. And my abuela, she's too afraid to come here and speak to the council, but luckily I'm not. So I'm asking the mayor of Malibu if we can do something about this, because I really don't think it's okay for these celebrities to just poop all over their bed and then make the housekeeper clean it up. And if we could just do something, if the council could actually stand up for these people, stand up. She's a person of color. There's persons of color on the council. You shouldn't just let a white cisgender woman poop all over her bed, a multi-millionaire, and then make the house staff just clean it up. And then it's not even about cleaning it up. They don't even admit that it's human feces. They lie and said it's from the dog. And then Johnny Depp is on trial under oath saying that it's human feces. My grandmother, she's immunocompromised. She could have gotten very sick, Lord knows. So I just really think that the council needs to stand up and do something, because these celebrities shouldn't be able to just poop in people's beds and then lie about the kind of poop that it is, misrepresent the poop, and then come to find out years later in a court case that it was human feces. This is not how we should treat people. And then in West Hollywood, we know Ed Buck is literally murdering people. So the council members and the mayor, you guys got to do something to help the city of West Hollywood, because there's methamphetamine users that are dying constantly, there's fentanyl users, and now we have big time celebrities that are literally pooping
Thank
in
you,
their
Mr.
beds
Alexander.
and
Your time
having
is up.
people of color
Thank
clean
you.
it.
Our next speaker is Yola Jore, followed by Ricky Sergienko. Yola, you'll have 2 minutes. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and honored guests. Yola Dore, speaking for myself, 30-year resident of West Hollywood. I'd like to start with a famous quote by Alexander Pope. To err is human, to forgive is divine. A short time ago, a commissioner in our city, a respected commissioner, made a faux pas. I imagine just about everyone in the chamber tonight, maybe those on the dais, have also made faux pas in their lifetime. Something that wasn't intentional, something that wasn't of malicious intent. Sadly, someone asked this commissioner to resign immediately, and a lot of pressure has been put on this lady. I'm wondering if we're going to tolerate people at random making persons on commissions and boards that make a small faux pas, people that apologize for that faux pas resign. It seems to me like there'll be very few chairs occupied in the commission meetings. I'd like you to think with me one moment and remember, to err is human, and let's not forget it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yola. Our next speaker is Ricky Sergienko, followed by Laura C. Ricky, you'll have 2 minutes. Please press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, yes, this is Richie Sergienko from the People's City Council. I just want to bring up one thing. You know, last time I called in, there were some LASD deputies in the room who were talking about the citizens' concerns of gangs coming into West Hollywood. And surely everyone here in this room understands that there are 18 deputy gangs within the sheriff's department. You know, Alex Villanueva is currently engaged in covering up the deputy gangs. You know, deputy gangs have been around for decades. And so I just think it's funny when the cop gang members say that people are worried about gangs coming into West Hollywood when their existence proves that it's already happening. And for decades, community members and community-based coalitions have pushed the county to shift spending away from bloated LASD budgets to reflect the values of residents. I'm super disappointed to see that this year's proposed contract is once again an overinvestment in the carceral system and an underinvestment in care. The cost per deputy rose by over 100% in the last decade. You know, it's pretty wild to think about it, you know, because LASD's budget increased from $3.5 billion to $3.6 billion this year, and LASD hired 1,900 more deputies. And so how is it possible that there are fewer deputies going to the contract cities when LASD as a whole is hiring more people, but your contracts are going up when deputies are going down? It doesn't make sense. WeHo's budget is a reflection of the city's leadership. The proposed sheriff's department budget is 4 times the budget for social services. 1 deputy is the cost of 3 mental health or social service workers. You know, I would just recommend listening to the community.
Mr.
Stop
Sergienko,
funding these
your time is
organized
up.
crime group, Google LASD gangs.
Thank you. Your time is up. Mayor, last speaker is Laura C. Laura, you'll have 2 minutes. Please press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, Steve. Hi, my name is Laura C. I'm calling with White People for Black Lives and La Defensa. I'm calling today in support of West Hollywood Public Safety Commission's proposal to reallocate $3.2 million of the city's $20 million Los Angeles County Sheriff Department contract. This is the fiscally responsible thing to do. I was walking down the street in WeHo the other day, and I saw a community member who appeared to have unmet mental health needs and possibly the only thing that I could notice was a bunch of different sheriff vehicles pulled over and sort of like walking around him and like surrounding him. And I was very nervous walking down the street. What's going to happen? Are they going to be violent with this community member? And what should I do as a constituent who cares about his well-being, wants to see his safety be protected, and yet instead is worried that I'm going to see a law enforcement standoff where they act brutally because they're not trained to be mental health practitioners, to be clinicians who support our most vulnerable community members. I'm deeply troubled by the statistic that Los Angeles County Sheriff's officers contracted in the city of WeHo have had salary increases of 100%. This is extremely unprecedented. Frankly, no other industry, the salary increases look like this. And it's not actually keeping our communities safer. I was deeply afraid for my comrade's safety the other day while walking down the street. And I didn't have the resources to call an alternative crisis response hotline or to see another way that this community member could be kept safe, and instead was worried that I might have to watch law enforcement violence re-traumatize them. And so again, I'm calling in support of West Hollywood Public Safety Commission's proposal to reallocate $3.2 million of the city's $20 million LASD contract. And I would urge this body to support the proposal at every level and to think about ongoing and increasing measures to fund actual public safety in the city of West Hollywood and to create community public safety and alternative crisis response. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Mayor, that was our last speaker on Zoom.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we will move on to council member comments. Would you like to begin, Council Member Erickson?
Yes, thank you so much. I want to first, I'm shaking because of this. I have to apologize to the public because I will have to step out in about 18 minutes because, as many of you know, I'm the Senior Director at Planned Parenthood. And it was released, this has never happened before, draft decision overturning not only Roe v. Wade, but Planned Parenthood v. Casey. This is gutting. And so I apologize that I will not be sitting in this chair, but I will try to come back as quickly as possible. So I want to let you all know that. And yet again, I'm reminded of my extreme privilege because I was born a man. And they're going to come for gay marriage next. It's in the opinion itself. And they call gay marriage phony rights. They're coming for Lawrence v. Texas. These are all rights that were made up by the Supreme Court in the Alito majority decision. This is a moment that we all have to stand in. Differences, arguments, maybe sometimes hatred of each other. Needs to stop. We can have disagreements, but we have to fight like hell. I saw so many people get married right outside there when I was an intern. I grew up with the federal right to a safe and legal abortion. I've never known anything different. And I just want everyone here to know that in any way, in my personal and professional capacity, I will not rest a single moment until we right this wrong. So I just apologize. Many of you have seen me getting up and leaving. Sadly, we all have jobs. I found out in closed session, so it's been a whirlwind, but we are preparing for this. We have prepared for this. We will continue to prepare for this. And so everything I was going to say tonight about every meeting I've attended or everything that we've done, nothing matters now. And that I have two nieces who live in a state. It shouldn't even be about that. It should be about all of us. But they won't be able to access the same rights and privileges that I have here. So all I can think about is their faces right now. So West Hollywood's gonna fight like hell. I know all of you shaking your heads, but I know my colleagues are gonna fight like hell. And so I just wanted to make sure all of you are aware that I haven't left. I will let David Wilson know if I do leave because I have to go do other things, but this is a moment that I knew was gonna come, and I've been saying it off the cuff in every meeting that this was gonna happen. And now, for the first time, to feel that pain and that emotion, it's real, it's really horrible. And so, eloquence and whatever call to action we can muster up here, all I can think about is my nieces and my nephews. Two faces right now. Because they're gonna grow up in a world where it might seem to them that hatred won. And when my niece looked at me in 2016, Christmas, and said, "Where'd the nice lady on the television go?" I'm reminded of that a lot right now. And that's why elections matter. So, thank you for this personal moment of privilege. Thank you for allowing me to step out and your grace and giving me that. I will try to be back here, Victor. I know 3A is very important to you, but we moved the other items up to the agenda. But I want to thank my colleagues for letting me sit here for a second. And I'm going to turn it back over to you, Mayor, so we can continue on.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Erickson. Mayor Pro Tem Shine.
Is this on? Okay. Today is a really, really dark day in America. The warnings that we all received about the presidency of Donald Trump are cascading down into reality against women, all women. The effect of overturning Roe v. Wade and the Casey case are overwhelmingly negative. We've already seen so many states passing barbaric anti-choice laws, even in the case of rape. It doesn't even matter that we live in California, because if we leave California, we women and transgender men are all at risk, are all in danger. We have the privilege of living here and being able to come back, especially in West Hollywood, to services if we need them. As an Iranian immigrant who went through a revolution where women's rights were taken away, this is horrifying, because I've seen it as a young 2-year-old child, 3-year-old child, 4-year-old child, 5-year-old child, years and years of women's rights in Iran stripped away. This is what I've been seeing in America. And we must and will fight and fight and fight for all women and girls and transgender men. This decision by the highest court of our land is horrific, and we won't stop until Congress at this point and this president take action. to put women and girls and transgender men and reproductive rights first. That must become a reality in this country. In the city of West Hollywood, we have always and will continue to fight for women. Councilmember Horvath and I passed an item with the support of the entire council just a few months ago to collaborate with LA County because we knew this was coming, to make sure that we have an action plan for this day, which is now here. But the fact that Casey was overturned, is being overturned as well, legally completely erases the burden for passing these state laws, and it's very, 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 very scary. All of us, and especially the women up here, are mortified, and we are here for all women in our city and will continue to be here. I think we need to continue to have healing conversations, but also provide action plans. I am also going to skip over all the things that we did, and just kind of, I was gonna talk about SB 1194, but I will talk about that after, at the next meeting. I do want to acknowledge and wish my Muslim community a happy Eid al-Fitr today, which marks the end of the fast of Ramadan, as well as wishing community members a happy Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and happy Jewish American Heritage Month, happy Senior Month, and happy Historic Preservation Month as well. I want to acknowledge my colleague for bringing forward the historic designation, colleagues, both of them, for the historic designation items this evening, and specifically with respect to Great Hall, Long Hall, and Fiesta Hall. Mayor Meister and I chatted about working together on an item like this many months ago, and I'm so appreciative that it's on our agenda this evening. And thank you to Councilmember Erickson for working with me on our sports tourism item this evening. Regarding consent item 2G, which is the 2022 social services funding process and request for proposal, I requested that staff remove the word cisgender from the term cisgender women from the priority section, because we should always be conscious of not being exclusionary. All women are women, whether trans or cisgender. Trans women are women and cis women are women. So let's make women a priority, period. Along the same lines of being more conscious with our words and intent, as elected as well as appointed officials, I do want to address the statement that was made by now former Planning Commission Chair Lynn Hoopengarner regarding Persian weddings as an impact during the Planning Commission Design Subcommittee preliminary meeting for the development proposed on the Viper Room building area. I have taken a lot of time these past few days to process what has transpired. And I've heard from community members and read emails about this from folks who were seeking her resignation, and also from folks who defended her service to the city and some who defended her comment. I, with my own appointed officials, have from the beginning communicated a zero tolerance policy with all of them when it comes to any form of racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, misandry, xenophobia, ageism, any comments against people with disabilities, and anti-Semitism. As an Iranian resident and first ever Iranian elected official in this city, hearing Chair Hoopengarner's comments was very disappointing. For me, it was important to receive a public apology, and I want to thank Chair Hoopengarner for her written apology. I have not yet received a phone call from Chair Hoopengarner, and I want her to know that she can always call me to have a conversation. I very much welcome that. We need to always view people's decisions and choices by looking at their intent, and at the same time, elected and appointed officials, as elected and appointed officials, we also need to be very conscious of the words we use coupled with our intent. Part of the responsibility of serving is upholding the values of this incredible city. I have always respected Chair Hoopengarner's service on the Planning Commission, and when I appointed my former commissioner, Katrina Vinson, Chair Hoopengarner really took her under her wing and mentored her, and for that she'll always have my gratitude. I personally don't believe in cancel culture. I do not believe that that ever brings needed healing or the conversations necessary for folks to truly understand each other or their own actions and the effect that it has on others. I do believe in accountability, and I believe in forgiveness and compassion when folks make mistakes and own up to it, especially when those mistakes come from a place of not having proper training or from a place of simple ignorance. My view on racism and stereotypes is that we live in a racist society with systems that need to be dismantled to create equity. Every part of our upbringing has solidified white supremacy through systems and ingrained ideologies, beliefs, and privilege. I believe Chair Hoopengarner's apology and that the harm that was caused to the Iranian community was unintentional. I do believe she deserves that compassion since she took the step to apologize and even the further step of resigning. However, as elected and appointed officials, we really do need to be super conscious and make sure our intent aligns with the values of West Hollywood. I also believe that her words could have potentially disqualified her from future decisions, and I do believe and can relate to the harm that was caused to our Iranian community. West Hollywood values diversity, inclusion, and is one of the most progressive cities in California and the entire United States. What is evident here is that despite having elected your first Iranian American elected official by a landslide, our community, and that includes each one of us and our city staff, we all have a lot of work to do in several areas. First, I would like to get an update on our code of conduct that we are waiting for from staff. It is essential that the city officials in our city know the boundaries within which to serve. That is so important for their success, so I would like an update from the city manager on that. Second, last year, the city manager held required anti-systemic racism training for all officials and staff, and I believe that given what has occurred in this case, we need to have further trainings. And finally, I will be working with staff to bring forward an item regarding a panel discussion for the community addressing racism and an opportunity for healing for our community so we can actually talk and all hear each other out. Additionally, with regard to the city manager, we passed a motion to increase block by block. I think that was discussed in a public comment. I would like to know when that recommendation and contract is going to come back to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Horvath?
Thank you, Mayor. Is this on? Yeah, okay, great. First, I wanted to address a couple of items on our agenda that were moved to consent. With regard to item 5A, I just want to make sure that the property owner has been notified and is aware of the action that the council is taking tonight. It will clearly by the item, it undergoes a process, but I just want to make sure that the property owner has been made aware and will be informed step by step of that process. And I also wanted to understand on item 5C, what we think a consultant will tell us that we haven't learned already by the process of creating West Hollywood Park and the amenities that it provides. I'm just not sure whether a consultant is required, but I'm happy to hear what it is we think we'll be getting from a consultant in order to move this forward. With regard to some of the events that have taken place since our last council meeting, I know the city has contracted with an organization called Strategy Corp to help us create an intersectional, interdisciplinary approach to community safety and well-being. That consultant will be helping us to develop a comprehensive plan and is aware of the comments that are that were made tonight and is following the comments that were made at other meetings and will continue to engage the public in helping to develop this plan. I had the opportunity to work with that consultant to have them ask me questions and engage in discussion, and I hope that the community will continue to engage in this discussion. There was a comment made here tonight about my critique of some of the commentary that I've heard regarding my public safety commissioner, and I want to be very clear that disagreement in civil discourse is important. It's part of how we get to different ideas. However, when I hear comments along questioning whether my commissioner, who is present here tonight, is a native English speaker, references to her family being of Chinese heritage, and that her heritage is somehow related to radical ideas and making our city part of a third world country, those comments are rooted in racism. And there's no two ways about that, and that's why I was stating it for the record. And I'm grateful to hear that we are going to continue to have conversations about what kinds of commentary contribute to breaking down communication and what kinds of commentary can help us have a stronger communication, because it is clear that there are different ideas that are present in our community and we should talk about them. And I hope that we can discuss them for their merits and not root them in personal attacks that single out people based on their heritage or gender identity or sex or any other identity that someone might have who's offering those comments. I was able to be present for the Dance for Life, which was a benefit event led by Phil Wilson and many other leaders to celebrate, but also to help raise money for the AIDS monument that will be part of our park. And so I just want to thank Phil and everyone who was a part of that wonderful, beautiful event. There were many West Hollywood residents there who talked about wanting to have more events like that in our own city, and I hope that we're able to bring arts and dance and culture, much like that event, more of that to our city, especially as we open up the facilities in West Hollywood Park. I want to congratulate the Rainbow Bar and Grill on their celebration of 50 years. May they have at least 50 more. I also want to thank all of our employees who were present, and I know some employees were not able to be present for the employee recognition lunch. Your work is valued. It is incomparable. I believe we have the best staff of any municipal government. I'm grateful for the work that they do each and every day. Getting through these past couple of years virtually while trying to deliver a high quality of service has been challenging at best. And we see your work, we appreciate your work, and while we thank you at a lunch that includes the employees, I want to thank you also publicly here so people know how much we value the work that you offer, how we recognize how challenging it has been, and we're happy to see each other back in person and hope that we can return to a new sense of normal in the work that we do. But we thank you for the work that you have done to help us get to this point. Yesterday was the first of many events that will be taking place this month.
in support of Ukrainian people, both refugees who are here and people on the ground in the Ukraine. And so if you go to the city's website, you will be able to see more events that will be taking place throughout the course of this month and ways that you can get involved here in West Hollywood to help make a difference in the things that we're seeing and hearing in all of the reports that are coming and breaking our hearts on a daily basis. There are ways to get involved and take action and help. And it was very moving to see the people who were there, who were gathered yesterday at Fiesta Hall, sharing stories of their loved ones, their experience and their connection to the tragedy that's ongoing. And I'm grateful to see our community come together and support people of Ukrainian descent here, people and support having a conversation, understanding of what is actually happening. It's clear we're a mighty city. We are a big platform for a lot of big ideas while we also do the work of municipal government. And I'm grateful to live in a city like this that is conscious of things going on beyond our borders. Tonight's news is really hard with regard to what we see as an impending decision. It's not a final decision, but a draft of a decision to instill fear, to create what for me is terror as a person of childbearing age, to know that my government is considering taking away my rights. So I would be forced to carry a pregnancy to term, despite whether I chose to become pregnant. It's terrifying. It's simply terrifying. We have talked a lot about allyship in this community, typically in the sense of our LGBTQ+ and straight allies. But this will be another way in which we can show allyship. And I hope that everyone will take seriously our commitment to being a pro-choice city. We have put in place plans to work with the county, to work with our local service providers. And I am grateful for the presence of Planned Parenthood in this community. This Planned Parenthood provides some of the most complicated and serious procedures that are performed anywhere in the country. And it is critical that we keep Planned Parenthood safe here in our community physically, but also that the rights and privileges that we now have and are able to access as residents of West Hollywood, that we are able to continue to protect those rights and privileges by making sure that what happens with our service providers is able to continue to happen here. We will not just be providing services for our residents here in West Hollywood or even just in Los Angeles County, but we're already welcoming people from all over the country who are threatened in their own home states, in their own home cities. People are at risk of losing their lives by attempting at-home abortions. They are being reported on, at risk of being reported on, and if they do, they could be charged fines simply for trying to exercise their own health care. This is terrifying, and I know that in many less formal settings, we've referenced, friends have referenced, episodes of the show The Handmaid's Tale and how it felt like our reality in recent years. But this decision makes it that much more real. And I'm grateful that our community gives us the space to speak our truths from the dais in this way, that gives us the time to speak our truths in this way. And I expect and know that our community will come together to help uphold one another and protect our rights and fight like hell, because this decision is still a draft decision, and this court needs to hear loud and clear how we feel about them threatening and floating this idea out there, trying to intimidate us and act as if we're going to go into the shadows, that it's their right to take away our rights. It's not. And we will fight back, and we will fight like hell. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember D'Amico.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to just talk about a few things. The items 5A and 5B regarding the potential historic designation of those properties. I'm very much in favor of studying that, certainly for Great Hall, Long Hall. a little less so for Fiesta Hall and slightly less so for the property on Santa Monica Boulevard. They are complicated versions of fairly interesting and yet not substantial buildings, but they happen to be in our community, so I think studying them and making a final decision is important. I worry that Fiesta Hall is, you know, it's a 19th century relic built in the 20th century that I'm afraid we know too well won't serve the 21st century very well. It could certainly be retrofitted. It may, in fact, be an actual place that has microphones and AV and internet service and reduces its echoing, and yet it causes me to wonder if that building is important, or maybe it's just the generous courtyard to the side and the front that meets the street so nicely. But we'll study that and we'll find out about it. And the property on Santa Monica Boulevard, I do believe that clock is quite dear. But again, I don't think it's an overwhelmingly wonderful version of that kind of building. It's a sort of run-of-the-mill commercial structure along what was Route 66, built out of bricks and clay tiles. So it's quite beautiful. So we'll find out. And as our colleague said, it's important to hear from the property owner herself or himself. So we're sure that they're on board with our efforts. I then wanted to talk a little bit about item 4A, which was the item regarding the needs assessment focusing on social service needs of community members of color. And you know, that caused me to remember that when our city back in 2009 was preparing the general plan, there was a 48-member committee assembled to comment and to participate in the generation of that. And I had come to that very podium that was in the other building that's now disappeared to mention that only one member of that 48-member committee was a person of color. And I was concerned that in a county that was 50% people of color, our city, Abby Land, in fact, as mayor, John Heilman as the mayor prior, they decided that one person of color should be speaking on behalf of all people of color in the city. And I think this report is the long tail of those bad decisions by Abby and John. And I know when I first got elected, I spoke at length with Aline Winderman and said, how do we advertise our housing, affordable housing units? And we did no outreach. And then I insisted with much upset from John Heilman and Abby Land that we advertise to organizations that are outside of West Hollywood, that serve people with AIDS of color or women and children from organizations outside of West Hollywood. And again, I think that is our city's general plan in action. And so I want to say that I think this effort is truly it's truly terrific. And I know we had a discussion about our arts and cultural affairs efforts and broadening who is involved and how that involvement happens. But I do think that we need to look a little deeper into our parts and pieces of our general plan and determine if we would find a similar set of findings that we find regarding this social services focus and members of the communities of color and whether they are participating fully in the bounty of West Hollywood. And I guess with that, I would say, regarding the news that was discussed already, we cannot do too much between now and November. Men especially have to get in the game regarding Roe versus Wade and women's rights. And I think more will be revealed. We will find out how the United States of America reacts to a sea change this large. But my sense is that many of us, most of us, will do the work necessary to make this eventually the law of the land, perhaps sooner than any of us thought, through Congress with a signature by the President. That would be my hope and my expectation. Mayor?
Thank you, Councilmember D'Amico. I was 13 years old when Roe v. Wade was the decision, and I probably didn't really understand, the seriousness and the gravity of it until I got a little older. And now that I'm much older, I just don't know what's happened to our country, and it's scary. I think that as we know, elections have consequences. I think with what Mayor Pro Tem said and Councilmember D'Amico, we are going to be in the process of hiring a lobbyist and a federal lobbyist, which in the past we've really focused on our state government. So I think that we couldn't have done this too soon. I'm glad at least that we do have that in the works, and we will have to lobby very, very hard to get our Congress people to take that initiative and make this the law of the land. In terms of attendance, I'll just say that I represented our district at the Sanitation District Personnel Committee meeting. I attended the council's Laurel House Subcommittee meeting and Homeless Initiative Subcommittee meeting with Mayor Pro Tem Shine. I attended a celebration of life for Irene Soderberg and presented a proclamation declaring April 21st, 2022, Irene Soderberg Day on behalf of the City Council. I also attended the Rainbow Bar and Grill 50th anniversary, as well as the East Side Neighborhood Watch Group meeting and the city's employee recognition event. And I'd like to say congratulations to Jada France, who won the city's Employee of the Year. I also attended a tree planting event at Plummer Park, the Lesbian and Queer Women's Visibility event, where we judged the dog competition. And yesterday also stopped by the event in support of Ukraine. And I will tell you that it was the event was packed, which was really heartwarming. Item 2N, World Dog Day. Councilmember D'Amico and I are very excited to welcome back Vanderpump dogs back to the city. World Dog Day promotes dog adoption and also advocates against the horrible dog meat trade which exists in China and other countries. My dogs, Suki and Sammy, were actually rescues from the dog meat trade in South Korea. Regarding Councilmember Horvath's question on whether we needed a consultant, I believe that was something that our city attorney had put in the report. So if we have enough information without a consultant, that is fine with me. I know that Jen Dunbar, who wrote the application for Great Hall Long Haul, did an incredible job and a very thorough job. which got us the California and the federal historic designations. So I think that whatever our city attorney says is.
My question was on 5C about the sports. It wasn't about 5B.
Oh, I thought you said 5B about okay. So, wait, never mind. Okay, never mind. Let's see, the West Hollywood, I do want to just talk briefly about the West Hollywood Homeless Initiative in partnership with the LA County Library and our city-funded partners. It's resuming the weekday homeless service outreach program at the West Hollywood Library as of today. This program started back in 2016, but has been on pause, as Matt mentioned, during the pandemic. We thank our homeless service providers, APLA Health, Ascensia, LA LGBT Center, Step Up on 2nd, and Tarzana Treatment Centers for bringing their staff and resources to the library to get people the help and services that they need on their path back into housing. For the schedule and more information, you can go to www.weho.org/homeless. Lastly, I'm very cognizant of the fact that my commissioners and board members represent the city as well as my office. As such, I'd like to offer my apologies to the Iranian and Persian communities for something that was said at the PC Design Review Subcommittee meeting by my commissioner that unintentionally stereotyped some members of our West Hollywood community. Please know that West Hollywood is an inclusive city that welcomes all people. Commissioner Hoopengarner has submitted an apology and a letter of resignation. I respect her decision, but I am sad because it will be a significant loss for the Planning Commission and the city. Lynn took her responsibilities as a planning commissioner very seriously. Her understanding of land use, her analytical abilities, and her experience made her a tremendous asset to that commission. I also know that Lynn meant no malice by her comments, but feels that the concerns raised could impact her effectiveness on the commission. For those who don't know, the Planning Commission is a quasi-judicial body whose decisions can be challenged. So I very much appreciate Lynn putting the city first. I want to assure West Hollywood residents and other stakeholders that it is my plan to find someone as prepared, as analytical, as hardworking, and as detail-oriented as Lynn and her predecessor. As someone who served on the Planning Commission myself, I know what's involved and what it takes to do a good job for our community. And now I'll turn it over to the city manager.
There's a coffee there too if you want.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I will start with responding to some of your questions or comments, and then give a few general updates, and then we'll have staff and representatives from JGLA provide an update on Pride. Regarding the code of conduct, I'm working with the city attorney's office. We've been working on it as hard as we could in between other items, but we plan to come back either at the next meeting or the first meeting in June with updates to the code of conduct. Regarding the block-by-block contract, we are working with Block by Block to update their contract for fiscal year next fiscal year. So the new contracts and new things that were added will be added July 1 and begin July 1. We will be doing more training on racial equity, in addition for staff and council and advisory board members and commissioners, in addition to the Mayor Pro Tem's item to do something for the public, for the general public. We are in the process of doing final interviews for the lobbyists and plan to have them on board within the next month. We will work with the property owner on the clock property there.
Do they know that the item is on the agenda tonight?
I don't think they were made aware that the item was on the agenda tonight, but before it goes to historic preservation, we will contact the owner. And then the consultant regarding 5C, the city attorney said we needed a consultant. No, I'm just joking. So we did meet with the council members that initiated the item several times regarding this item, and it was determined that the consultant was needed to look at the type of sporting events and tournaments that are possible based on our facilities and staffing and other resources. So we'll have someone with expertise look at what type of events we'll be able to have. And I think that was all the council comments. So we are continuing the community cleanup events. The next event will happen on the east side at Plummer Park at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We are looking for additional volunteers for that event, so please contact Jasmine Duckworth at JDUCKWORTH@weho.org or visit weho.org/volunteer. The final event will happen Saturday, May 21st at West Hollywood Park from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The Dockless Mobility Program survey is open to community members starting today through May 20th. The survey is available on the city's website through the Bird, Lime, and Wheels mobile app. And for more information, you can contact Paige Portwood at PPORTWOOD@weho.org. And finally, the WeHo Pride's Art Festival starts May 22nd, and we have begun with the street banners and digital ads for those events, and they can be found on, information can be found on weho.org/pride. And I will at this time turn it over to staff to give an update on the Pride events.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Update for the inaugural WeHo Pride. And again, this will be a planning update primarily for the WeHo Pride weekend, which will take place June 3rd through 5th. As of May 1st, 280 street lamp banners went up across the city promoting both the WeHo Pride LGBTQ Arts Festival and the WeHo Pride Weekend, June 3 through 5. The weekend will include a free street fair with activations from community groups, JJLA's Out Loud Raising Voices, a 3-day award-winning ticketed concert celebrating LGBTQ artistry, and the inaugural WeHo Pride Parade on Sunday, June 5th. The weekend will kick off on Friday, June 3rd at 5 p.m. with the Dyke March, which will be held on the WeHo Pride Community Stage in a lot along Robertson. Following the Dyke March on Friday evening, Women's Freedom Festival will program the community stage until 10 p.m. when the free portions of the event close for the evening. Saturday and Sunday will also see programming from local artists, groups, and DJs on the community stage, with exciting announcements related to lineup and hours in the coming days. Out Loud Raising Voices will take place within the park Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Following a successful application process, nearly 50 community groups will be receiving space inside the free WeHo Pride event areas on Robertson and San Vicente. And to date, over $90,000 in funding has been awarded to community groups in order to produce independent events that promote visibility or to support an amplified presence at the WeHo Pride Street Fair or on the community stage Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Staff continues to evaluate funding requests and will share a more formal report with the council at its meeting on May 16th. The inaugural WeHo Pride Parade will be held on Sunday, June 5th, with step-off at Santa Monica Boulevard and Crescent Heights at noon. And KTLA will be hosting a broadcast special from Santa Monica and San Vicente between 1 and 3 p.m. Applications to participate in the parade closed on Friday, and Jeff Consoletti of JJLA, the city's production partner, is available to answer any questions that you may have related to the parade or any other planning elements. Staff is also happy to answer any questions that you may have, and up-to-date information related to programming, event hours, street closures, or opportunities to participate will be available on weho.org/pride as updates become available.
Does anyone have questions? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question regarding the graphics for inclusion of the Dyke March and the Women's Freedom Festival. That was something that I was under the impression that there's going to be a collaboration with JJLA and us to make sure that the graphics are updated, not just on weho.org, but on our social media, and in whatever other ways we can get that out. What's the update on that? Because a lot of lesbian and queer women that I spoke to at the Meet in the Park this Saturday had no idea about Dyke March, timing, where it is, the move, and all of that.
Thank you. That is something that we're currently working on, and Jeff may be able to give a more specific timeline, but our plan is to update those graphics with specific information in the coming days.
Great.
Yep. Excuse me. It's in production. We'll have new posters and promo cards that circulate this weekend, updating the save the date with all of the weekend, like WeHo Pride Weekend, June 3, 4, 5 events. So that's rolling out this weekend, and then we're tying in again with, I think, the Women's Freedom Festival. I have a list, so we're on it.
Thank you. And then the other question I had is, I know that there's been groups that have been awarded funding, whether it's booths, my understanding is booths at the festival, the 50 booths, but also other events perhaps that are happening. Is promotional, are we gonna also promote those events happening? I know we haven't gotten the list yet, but I assume there's been actual different type of activation and events around the city. What's the plan to promote those events as well? Because this is all part of WeHo Pride. I don't know which one of you can answer that.
It might be a joint effort between JJLA and I, but so we are working with all of the groups that have been awarded funding through the community group program to share the graphics that have been prepared, and just really, working with them on what their promotion plan is and tying into, so it is truly a cross-promotional effort. We are working with those groups rapidly to get details related to their events confirmed, and we'll work to promote them as the event specifics are determined.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Not for staff.
I don't think so. That's it. Thank you so much.
Oh, do we have a report from you, Jeff, or any further
A
updates?
report from me?
Yes. So, okay. So I have a question for you. I thought this was just a staff portion. How is the WeHo Pride Parade?
The parade came along really great. So we're at or over capacity. The applications closed on Friday. We're really pleased with the turnout and the submissions that we have. As Meg mentioned, we'll have a more thorough report and unveiling of sort of all the excitement of the parade at the next council meeting. But really thanks to the chamber, to all of your offices, everyone for really helping to get the word out, and we're really excited about our inaugural parade.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you all.
Coming together nicely.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Is there anything else from the
That
city manager?
concludes the city manager's report.
And just before we get to the fiscal impact of the consent calendar, I just wanted to thank all my colleagues for supporting item 5B as a boy. And I know that it's been on my bucket list for many years, and I know it's been on Mayor Pro Tem's bucket list, so it's a really great day for historic preservation. Okay, so now we're going to see what the fiscal impact is with the addition of items 4A, 5A, 5B, 5C, and 6A.
Mayor, I don't know if this is in order, so you can tell me if it's not. But given that item 5A, that the property owner has not been notified, is it possible that we table this item so the property owner can be notified before the council takes action?
I would support that too. I mean, I think if we go through a whole process and they don't want to do it, we could find out beforehand and go through it anyway and do it, but at least we would know and they would have a chance to weigh in.
I mean, I think there's a lot of good intention there, but I think, it would be helpful to at least understand if we're undertaking what could be an adversarial experience versus, something that might have the help of the property owner to move forward.
So can we table it to the next meeting?
Yes, we can table it to the next meeting and make sure they're notified.
Okay.
Put it on the consent calendar.
Fine.
Okay, so I take it back, and I'm going to say, what is the fiscal impact with the addition of items 4A, 5B, 5C, and 6A?
Thank you, Mayor. The fiscal impact on tonight's consent calendar with the items that you referenced is $6,852,700 in expenditures, $0 in revenues, and $3,710 in waived fees.
Thank you. We have a motion, Councilmember D'Amico, second, Mayor Pro Tem.
We have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Councilmember D'Amico.
Yes.
I will note that Councilmember Erickson is absent for this vote. Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Shine.
Yes.
Mayor Meister.
Yes,
The consent calendar is approved.
that's wonderful. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break, everyone. We'll be back in 10 minutes. please take their seat? Don't yell at the messenger, but we're going to continue item 3A to next meeting. So that will be on May 16th, right? Okay. We are going to move on now to item 6B, legislative. And do we have staff? We do. Hello, John Leonard.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Would you like a staff report from me on this item?
I'm sorry?
Would the council like a staff report from me on this?
Staff report or just a, do you want to just ask questions? Or you had mentioned, go ahead. Yes. Do we have any public speakers on this, on 6B?
I don't have anyone signed up to speak in chambers.
Neither in Zoom.
Okay. Councilmember Horvath?
I don't have any questions. I was just going to ask if we might be able to revisit the discussion on deferring implementation of paid leave provisions to a later date.
Yep.
I think, you know, there was discussion at the last meeting. There's been subsequent, I've had subsequent discussions with more businesses, and so if we could take that as an action before we consider the whole item, I'd like to try and do that.
Yeah, I would be open to that. Do you have a time frame in mind? 3 months?
Sure, we can
5 months? 4 months?
I mean, originally we had talked about
6
January 1st, but I don't know that there was support for that. So I'm open to seeing where we might be able to get consensus to a different date if there's willingness.
Okay, I know that I was going to ask if, John, if you have any sense about how many businesses might be applying for the new waiver, which would take up a lot of staff time, I imagine.
I haven't heard from many businesses regarding their desire to apply for the waiver. That doesn't mean that there won't be a number of businesses applying for it, but I've only heard from a handful.
You have heard from businesses, or you've heard from a hand, or you haven't, or?
I've heard from a handful of businesses that they are interested in the waiver for the leave provisions, but I haven't heard from more than that.
Okay.
I also like to discuss, I know, are we going to have public comment? Or it
There
sounds like
there
we're
is
going
no
into-
public comment.
Oh, no public comment. Oh, okay. Sorry. Surprising, no public comment on this. Okay, so I'd like to discuss the, I'm open to having the discussion for, you know, I want to hear from my other colleague too, but we can certainly discuss the implementation date of the leave provision. But I'm actually, with regard to the hardship items for the leave provision, for Part A, I'm personally fine with. I think that's fair, given it would match the minimum wage. Same parameters that are very, you know, have accountability and actual criterias. But for Part B, I feel like it's somewhat ambiguous and needs more accountability. And what I would like to actually propose is, rather than keeping it for a year, I would like to propose we give a total of 6 months for compliance and divide that into 3-month segments, so that a business would need to demonstrate to the city manager with proof that they're taking concrete steps to change their processes, payroll and platform processes. And then, you know, they get 3 months, and if they still have any kind of, we've heard of labor shortages and supply chain issues, although I'm guessing this is software, so I'm not sure if a supply chain issue would be the case, but if they really need more, another 3 months, then they would continue speaking to the city manager and then apply for a second 3 months after that. I think that that's something that is a more reasonable extension for Part B, which deals only with implementation hardship due to software and payroll, human resources processes. So that's something that I would propose, and I could get behind. I can't get behind a one-year hardship extension for the Part B only.
Councilmember D'Amico, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I am 1,000% against moving the implementation date. I think we need to put this in place or risk it falling apart should there be new people elected in November. And I do think there needs to be some flexibility, as the Mayor Pro Tem suggested, 2-3 month periods, something like that. But this ordinance, the success of this ordinance, I believe, in the long run, will be based on our willingness to implement it. And kicking the can down the road because businesses change their mind or have a different point of view depending on which council member they're talking to, creates a fog and confusion. And I think choosing an implementation date and then allowing businesses that can't comply to defer as needed is a sensible way to make sure that this ordinance is enacted.
I believe we do have one public speaker, Zakia Wright.
We do, Mayor. Zakia, you'll have 2 minutes. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. This is Zakia Wright. I'm sorry if I requested getting on time, but I sort of want to echo where I think Councilmember D'Amico is going, and certainly what Councilmember Shine has sort of indicated. I think, continuing to sort of push implementation of this down the road sort of doesn't help the employees to sort of know what rights they do have regarding paid time off, or really the employers to be able to plan for what that looks like and to really get it up and going. And so I think whether it's some sort of segmented implementation or where the waiver happens and, it's sort of a check-in at some regular interval, I think either one of those sort of helps, and it gives people more security and knowing what their status is and what rights they have to leave and they, and what they can count on, et cetera. But sort of pushing this to some unforeseeable date, I don't think really helps, us to get all employees on a solid playing field. And so I am really enjoying the conversation so far and the discussion and the points being made, and I, thus far do agree. So thank you.
Thank you, Zakia. I'll just put in my 2 cents. I don't know that it makes a difference that there's an election in November, because when we did the smoking ordinance and we had an ordinance written, when we had new council, it was changed anyway. Any ordinance we come up with can be changed at any given time. So that is not something that I would consider. What I'm thinking about is, if you're thinking about 3 months or 6 months, the 6-month waiver, whether it's in segments or not, then just give the 6 months, for implementation, and then staff won't have to deal with it. And that's what I brought up at the last meeting, that the waiver for financial hardship, that's a different story. That's A, and that's fine. But there wouldn't necessarily be a need for B if we would just extend implementation 6 months to, or to January 1st. So that's my opinion. But Councilmember Horvath?
So I'm clear on what you're suggesting. Are you saying that we eliminate item B, 3B, that's in the staff report on page 2, and we would replace it with delaying implementation of, deferral of implementation of the paid leave provisions to January 1st?
Right. That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay. We have 4 people to count to 3, so we have to figure out if there's agreement somewhere. So is there interest?
I just want to say that we have a former council member running for city council to undo this ordinance. And if we don't pass it, if we don't implement it, if we don't put 98% of the businesses on record that they're doing it, in January, there will be an effort to undo it. And, if he wants to run as the anti-small business or anti-worker candidate, he can do it. But it's really clear that this is an election issue and that a former 35-year council member wants to undo this ordinance by his own words. So if we're not going to protect workers today, we're basically telling them in January they have no protection. That's what's up.
And I think regardless, it's going to be an election issue. So I'm just trying, so I'm hearing you loud and clear are you no across the board? Is there any version of working on this that you want to be a part of, or are you just a no?
What I am is we need to implement this in July, and we can tell business owners that they can defer their start of it if they explain to their workers why they can't until January 1st. But my sense is, because there's not even a single business here, that most businesses are going to figure it out. And there will be businesses that can't, whether they're a $5 billion a year business or a $50,000 a year business. And I think those businesses can tell their workers, we're going to work on it and we're going to get this to happen. And until then, we have the permission of the city to not implement this.
I share your passion for implementing it. That's why I voted in favor of it. I also want to make sure that we're doing all we can to make it successful, and that includes helping make sure that our businesses are prepared. And so I think making sure that our staff is prepared to work with our businesses, and to the mayor's point about making sure that there's that they have the ability, and maybe John Leonard can speak to this if it sounds like maybe it's only a handful from what you're saying, but we did have a lot of folks here yesterday, and I've certainly heard from many more who didn't come and participate in person, that they're concerned they're not going to be prepared by July 1st. And I know at the last meeting there was discussion about possibly looking at October 1st, so it's still before the election, but it gives a little bit more time if you're concerned about the election date. But I just want to make sure that yes, it's implemented and we're setting it up to succeed in implementation. And I think what I have heard is a request for a little bit more time to figure out some of those details. And I'm trying to figure out if there's willingness to do that.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, thank you. I think, Councilmember Horvath, I originally was okay with a 3-month extension, but there wasn't a vote that day. And I was moved by Councilmember D'Amico's comments. And the reason I agreed to this implementation, which is Part B, was precisely what you're concerned about. I think those businesses that have a hardship in implementation, or they need more time, B gives it to them. But I also want to make sure it's not, we're making sure that it's also reasonable. And my suggestion is that we keep A for sure, Part A. So our businesses, if they have true hardship and bankruptcy or whatever, cutting their workforce, they can have that 1-year waiver, which is what we did for the minimum wage portion. The second part B, actually addresses the concerns of everything you said, because a business can, under what I'm proposing, and I'll just go ahead and make that motion, we do a 6-month total and cut it into 3-month increments. And so a business can submit whatever information they need to show that they have the hardship to implement this. And also, let's remember, we've been discussing this now for, when did we vote on having July 1st for the leave? Or when did we first discuss it? How many months has it been?
I believe that was discussed in November.
Okay, so businesses have actually had since November to become somewhat prepared, but the administrative issues were not cleared up till recently, and the businesses still have 2 months, plus they'll have an extra 3 months to apply for the hardship, and then even if they still, for some reason, can't update their software, or they have some other HR issues, they can apply for another 3 months, and it sounds like Councilmember D'Amico supports that, for a total of 6 months. I don't know, we're not in the Flintstone age. It shouldn't take more than 6 months to implement accruing leave for workers, which would most likely be through a computer software or working with your vendor. Aside from the election, I agree with the election issues, but I'm more concerned that we have let the workers of this city know that they are going to have leave, which takes time to accrue. We've made compromises in the last meeting with the other items that are in this same item, with putting a cap on the total leave, with making sure that there's a cap on the CPI, minimum and a maximum, and some other things. But really, so that's my motion. I'd like to make that motion right now, that we change Part B to a total of 6 months with a 3-month beginning implementation period, and then with them proving to the city manager that they're making a good faith effort, and if they still need another 3 months, it's another 3 months, and then it gets them to January if they truly need that time. And so we do it with accountability, and this is a way to compromise with both sides, workers that have been expecting this, and also businesses that need that, as well as maintaining the integrity of the decision we made. So,
Yes.
Can I suggest as a compromise that maybe we do move the implementation date to October 1st? So move it out the 3 months, which relieves the administrative burden on staff and businesses to apply in that first period. And then we started October 1st, and then people could do the 3 months or 6 months or whatever you determine from there. So that everyone would automatically get that first 3 months, and then we start at October 1.
In other words, 3 months to October 1, and then if they needed a 3-month waiver, which leads you to the same date. It just means.
So then it just becomes a 3-month waiver rather than a 6-month waiver. Okay, I'm actually okay with that. Councilmember D'Amico, what are your thoughts?
I want to suggest something slightly different, which is that we still stick with our July 1st date. And like many ordinances and many efforts, people have to do their work and they have to get it together. And by October 1st, if they haven't implemented it, then they need to apply for a 3-month waiver. And here's why it's different, because I believe the vast majority of businesses will do this. And people will begin accruing vacation and sick time. Their employees will start seeing it on their paychecks every 2 weeks or every month, that it will become an actual benefit, and that I know, Mayor, you said we can undo ordinances whenever we want, but I think it's unlikely that an ordinance would be undone once it begins showing up on people's paychecks, like the Affordable Care Act. You know, once people were receiving health care, it became more and more complicated to undo it, and it is not undone. And I have very big concerns that there will be an effort to undo this, so I would like us to put whatever we can in place, to put as many, straws in the basket as we can. So if there's not an interest in keeping the implementation date on July 1st, I'm willing to do what David suggests, but I think keeping it where it is, telling employers they have 90 days from July 1st to implement it, and then if they haven't by October 1st, they have to apply for a 90-day waiver. And I think in that way, we avoid the paperwork and the interaction with our staff, and we set up people to have 90 days to figure it out and implement it. And if they still can't do it, then they can do that on October 1st and get a waiver.
And if I can jump in, I would like to go with David, with our city manager's suggestion. And another reason to consider October 1st is corporations, many of them start their fiscal year October 1st. And it just seems to make sense to me that you would want to do something like this when a fiscal year begins.
They can get a
And
waiver.
our city manager has been talking to these businesses, as we have, for the last year and a half about this, and I think that we should respect his opinion.
Mayor, would you like to catch up our colleague?
Hello there. Welcome back. So we are discussing whether implementation should begin July 1st or October 1st, I think we've narrowed down to. And how long, if there should be a 3-month waiver or a 6-month waiver after implementation. Our city manager has suggested an October 1st implementation and either a 3 or 6-month waiver, which is Part B. Not 3A is fine. It's 3B that is the concern. The waiver of requirements in implementing in implementation. So that's where we're at right now. I would like to see us go with October 1st start, in addition to what our city manager has recommended. That is when a fiscal year starts for many corporations and our small businesses, even though they're small businesses, may be incorporated and have October 1st fiscal year. As far as the 3-month versus 6-month waiver, I'm open on that. I'm willing to compromise to the 3 months, although I would prefer a 6-month waiver beyond, but I'm willing to compromise.
And just to add, Councilmember Erickson, I originally made the motion that we keep July 1st and do 2 3-month for Part B for the hardship, 2 3-month extensions. Yes, so you have a 3-month and then another 3 months if needed. And we've had discussions this evening, and the city manager suggested that to come to a compromise, we do just extend the implementation date to October 1st and just do a 3-month, which I said I would support, a 3-month hardship, just 1 3-month hardship extension. Councilmember D'Amico does not support that. I don't know where Councilmember Horvath seems to.
Yes, and I suggested we stick with July 1st and let businesses know they have up to 90 days to implement it. And on October 1st, they would have to apply for a 3-month extension. And the difference is that for those businesses that do implement it in July or August or September, their workers would begin accruing sick time and vacation pay. And certainly, whether people call into Zoom or come in person is not always an indication of concern, but I am aware that there doesn't seem to be many people here advocating one way or another. That may change, because if they're watching, they might join in. But I think my sense, Councilmember Erickson, is that we need to get this going. Whatever number of businesses are ready to go, they'll go. And whatever number of businesses are not, they'll use those 90 days, and then if necessary, ask for an additional 3 months until the end of the year, whether their fiscal year starts in October or November or December or January. And there may even be an outlier in January who can't figure it out, and we can have the staff deal with that. But
So Councilmember D'Amico, so I didn't hear the up to 90 days, so there would be no penalty for those businesses from July to October 1st?
Right.
Okay, so essentially it's just I see why you said it's slightly different, a different way to get to
July
kind
1st.
of what we all are doing. I think for me, I would support that as long as there isn't a penalty. But we obviously keep the July 1st implementation date. There's no penalty on the businesses. So if they can't do it, it's kind of just figuring it out. But then by October 1st, everyone needs to be in compliance, or else there'll be penalties unless you can apply for a hardship. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that your motion?
Well, I think we have often tried to hear from other people, and we also have a member of the public, so maybe John wants to say something.
I was going to say, have we heard a member of the public, if they would like to speak first, and then I'm happy to chime in. I thought there wasn't. And I don't, is this even on? I don't.
Steve Morton?
Oh, Steve Martin. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Council, Mayor and Council. I didn't know if that was an invitation to come down and speak, but I did take it. I agree with Council Member D'Amico. What if you have a low percentage rate on July 1st, only maybe 30, 35, 40%, but it does mean that people are starting to accrue. And that could be a significant number. And maybe some of the larger employers will probably find it easier to do. So we may have a majority of the employees that this covers starting to accrue already by July 1st, which I think is a good thing. Is this going to be an election issue? Yeah. I mean, it's probably not going to be so much an election issue that's talked about, but it's going to be an election issue where people are shaking down members of the chamber. The chamber's going to subsidize independent expenditure campaigns for people that will want to roll this back. But, I don't know we should spend a lot of time worrying about that. I think we should figure out if this is what the council wants to do. This is the direction that's been given. Why don't we move forward with that? You've given the October 1st time, the October 1st extension. And I think ultimately you'll be okay. And I think come October 1st, I guess we'll see. But thank you.
Councilmember Horvath?
Well, the idea that there isn't a penalty, the penalty might not come from the city, but workers will be expecting that July 1st that their leave will start to accrue. And so it will be legal. It could be legally actionable if they have not been notified that they're not going to comply with the city's ordinance. So it might not be the city that's imposing the penalty, but there might be other issues, which is why I think there are concerns from the business community about full implementation, and that's why I'm saying slowing it down so we set this ordinance up to be successful in its implementation. Also is just about helping employers have all of their details and organized, so that way when their systems, there are several different systems for different classes of employees in some of our larger employers, and so if there isn't clarity from the employer that they are
seeking a waiver from the city starting July 1st, then it can set up an expectation in the workers that could also create legal ramifications. So I understand from the city side how it could be flexible, but within the employer itself, that would be a problem. So I think we need to be clear and whatever we decide. And I think the intention behind, we wouldn't be discussing this ordinance if we didn't believe in it. If we wouldn't have voted to make this ordinance happen if we didn't believe in it. What I heard was a request for a little bit more time, and I think that it's not only a gesture of compromise to the people who need that help, but it's also important to understand what the impact might be on our staff. If we have a lot of employers coming and seeking staff's help, are they going to be able to help them all in a 90-day period? Maybe, maybe not. But I understand we implement it, we find out. I'm just saying that giving a little bit more time to make sure the details of the implementation are in order. But if we do it till October 1st, they will have had from the time that we made this decision back in November till now almost a year to see it coming, and to have worked on implementing it within their own systems with a little bit more time on the admin regs, which are details that they didn't have from the outset. And then the additional 3 months, if they so need it, maybe they won't. That would be something they have to apply for. But just keep in mind, it's not just about a relationship between the employer and the city. It's also the worker's relationship with the expectations of the employer and how that can become legally actionable.
Okay. Councilmember Erickson.
Thanks so much. And thank you, Steve, for saying the quiet part out loud. And thank you to the public for your grace and allowing me to be in another room. I've been on many calls, so I apologize. I hate that you had to say that this will be an election issue. I'm going to talk to you, Steve, like you're right there. I'm hearing things like the Chamber's raised $40,000 for an IE for individuals to overturn this. And then my response is they have $40,000 to spend on a political expenditure to overturn minimum wage protections. And I don't want to say the Chamber or SOS WeHo, I don't know who has it, but we all hear these rumors. And I say, if they have $40,000 to do this, why aren't they paying their workers or doing other things with that money? And that's political money. That's not any type of money you ever get back. So I just don't understand that logic. I don't think I ever will, but if that's their will to do that politically, then that's their right in America today, and Godspeed to whoever wants to run on overturning the minimum wage and worker protections. That's what I have to say to that. But then that leads me to my ultimate decision before this, is that I don't support extending it. I think July 1st is fine. I'm fine with the 3 months. Or what's being proposed by, I believe, Mayor Pro Tem Shine and Councilmember D'Amico, and implementing it in that way. And I only believe there was one public commenter, Mr. Martin. Zakia, thank you. I've heard Zakia speak previously, so I understand where they stand on this issue. I heard the other individuals speak before. And this is a straight up public policy decision that I believe in wholly. I know we all believe in that. And so that's where I'm at, Mayor. I understand the art of compromise, but I also think we did compromise. And I tried to explain that to many people. When I called them all, and they all said things to me that they might not say in public, but that's okay, because that's my job. Getting the cap and the accruals, the different ways we split the sick time and paid time, the ways that we did compromise, and when we were asked for stuff, the paid compensation, the tip credit, which was never going to happen because it's a state issue and it's preempted by state law, so it was never going to happen. I'm sorry about that, but you should contact Richard Bloom and Senator Ben Allen if you would wish to change that. And so I do believe this council has compromised. I do believe in the art of compromise. Some people may disagree with me on how that has happened, but I do not support moving it to October 1st. I believe July 1st is the right time. And then I am in agreement with what Mayor Pro Tem Shine and Councilmember D'Amico have proposed for, I believe, the 3 months and whatever you I'm not saying it as eloquently as you did before, Mayor Pro Tem, but that's where I'm at, Mayor, so thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I think with regard to the legal liability issues and workers feeling that some getting it and then some not, it goes back to, I think she made a really good point. So I'm going to go back to my original motion, which was keep this July 1st date, change Part B to a 3-month extension for hardship, and they have to prove that they're having this hardship, and with accountability, show the city manager records that you're having a good faith effort, whatever that is. Staff can come up with those parameters, and then if after the 3 months they still can't, they get to apply again and get another 3 months. I think that, in essence, honestly takes care of all of our issues. It reduces legal liability, and also we talked about making equality for all workers. So while Councilmember D'Amico, I appreciate your creative thought on this. I think having certainty for workers is actually really important.
And I'll second that.
Thank
you. So if that's your motion, I'll second it.
Great.
Okay, any other comments?
Can I clarify the motion?
Sure.
So section B, regarding the waivers. So section B is regarding the leave provisions. And there are 2 hardship components within that. One is financial, and then one is about implementing HR processes and programs. Is the motion to make the entire section B, both the financial hardship and the HR processes for the 6 months, or should we bifurcate and say that the financial hardships can be for a year and the HR processes are for the 3 months plus another 3 months?
Okay, I had said the financial hardship part should stay a year because there's so much paperwork that needs to be given for that I think it's fine. But the part B of B, part B of the leave provision, that's where the motion is about.
Okay. If we're prepared to vote, I can read language into the record for that.
I assume your motion includes all of the other.
Yes, and all of the other.
Everything else that's in the
staff
report.
recommendations, yes.
The only thing that's changing
Thank
is
you.
section 3B.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. With that, so section 5.130.080B, which is the 3rd change that was outlined within the staff report and in the ordinance. The 5th sentence in section B currently states, any waiver granted by the city manager or their designee is valid for no more than 1 year. Revised language would state, the city manager or their designee may grant up to a 1-year waiver based on the first hardship condition, in parentheses, financial hardships, period. Next sentence, the city manager or their designee may grant up to 2 3-month waivers based on the second hardship condition, in parentheses, implementation hardships due to the existing payroll and human resources processes and platforms, provided the second 3-month waiver shall only be granted if implementation hardships remain and the employer has made diligent progress towards implementing the provisions, period. Next sentence, total waivers granted pursuant to this subsection shall not exceed 1 year.
I'll just make a last comment, just that most businesses, again, start their fiscal year either October or January. I don't think that it would be a terrible compromise to say start at October 1st and do the 3 months after that, but you have a motion, so. There are no more comments, roll call?
We have a motion and a second on the floor to introduce on first reading an ordinance of the City Council of the City of West Hollywood, California, amending sections 5.130.020, 5.130.030, and 5.130.080 of the West Hollywood Municipal Code regarding implementation of the citywide minimum wage, with the changes read into the record by John Leonard. Councilmember D'Amico.
Yes.
Councilmember Erickson. Yes. Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Shine.
Yes.
Mayor Meister.
No.
The motion passes, noting the no vote of Mayor Meister.
Thank you very much. And now we are at public comment. Do we have public comment?
Sorry, Mayor. I have one speaker in chambers signed up to speak. Do we have anyone in Zoom? And we have no one in Zoom. Kevin Meskin, if you're still in council chambers. Okay. He's not here.
Okay. Any council member comments?
I just wanted to remind the public that the opinion piece that came out tonight in Politico was a draft opinion, that abortion is still the law of the land. It is still legal to get an abortion where you, if you need one, it is still codified in the state constitution here in California. And actually we're working to expand those services and to ensure that individuals who will have to come from other states can receive the quality of care that they should be able to get in their own state, but will have to come to places like California are and represent. And so I just wanted for the public to know that. It is a very jarring opinion, and there will be lots more to come in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Erickson. And I just wondered if we could add to our adjournments Naomi Judd. It just came out that she had committed suicide, and since it's Mental Health Awareness Month, I think it's appropriate that we adjourn in her memory. Thank you. And now we are adjourned until our next meeting, Monday, May 16th, 6 p.m., regular meeting at West Hollywood Park Council Chambers. We are adjourned.
Can't wait to hear how that was my fault tomorrow.